What I have noticed in seeing the dating habits of professional athletes is that the things that you focus on that you value are not actually a lot of times the things that you really should be focused on. Like I've heard many of you all say, and been in company with some of you and talking about relationships, like, oh, I don't care where she works. I don't care about her career. I was like, you should care because that means she has to be disciplined enough to have done something and to have achieved something. And so you all kind of dismiss that out the gate, like, I don't really care what she does for a living. No, that matters. You know that if she's a doctor, she had to be disciplined enough to go to medical school. And so you know she ain't about the bullshit. And so many of you guys engage in relationships with women who are very clearly about the bullshit.
So I think we need to have a more nuanced conversation about this. And shout out to Janelle, because this is a pretty nuanced conversation. When you're looking at professional athletes, and we're going to look at professional athletes, we're also going to look at normal males, so we can get something from this conversation. Professionally, one thing that we never really give enough credence to, these are these are boys, right? These are boys that have been elevated and praised for their physical talents, but we have not put enough time into them, into nurturing them, into being men. Often they come from disenfranchised homes and establishments, so they're lacking certain figures. When you coddle people for talent and genius, and this is what we do as a society, be mad if you want, you often end up ignoring key parts of their personality and growth in favor for their talent. Now, saying when men are saying that they don't care what that woman does in terms professionally, it's with the with it's probably with the unsaid caveat in comparison to how women care. I've said it before in this channel in an earlier video. I absolutely care about the education level of someone that I'm going to be with for the rest of my life, just in terms of conversation, just in case, in terms of reasoning, just in case, in terms of being able to block out the noise from everything else that's happening around you. Sometimes that takes, when we used to go to school and not be indoctrinated into sort of worldviews, but the ability to research and ability to communicate your thoughts is primarily what school used to be about. Yes, there's other things about training you specifically, but I'm talking in the way school was originally established. You were able to communicate your thoughts in orally or on paper. And that was viewed as, in large society as intrinsic to a healthy society. But what we have now is the bare bones sort of replies and talking points. I don't care what she does in relation to women, in relation to how women care, how important it is for them. For men, it absolutely should matter, especially if you were saying, and I hate to use the trite term, you're building an empire. You should care who's going to be manning it in your stay or helping you expand said empire. You want someone that clearly has the ability to reason, has the ability to follow your train of thought, to take what you've built and elevate it. But before we continue, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss new uploads. Still doing two a day, still going strong. Try to close out the year with the same sort of tenacity and discipline. Again, which was the purpose of this channel, the first video of this channel. So listen, if you're just seeing my voice now, you subscribe. Shout out to you, OG, appreciate you, and to the new people to the subscribing to the channel, appreciate you guys as well. But if you're just seeing my face and hearing my voice, yeah, it's your notification bell. So go ahead and take a look at that. YouTube does what YouTube wants to do. But back to the point, back to the video. When you're looking at professional athletes and saying and looking at their dating choices, yes, they're going to be heavily influenced by social media, by what's around them, by the pretty, by what all that glimmers, right? And we take that a step further and we look and say, well, when we have that talking point that arose from you know countless back and forth conversations with men and women on podcasts or on YouTube saying, yeah, men don't really care what you do. Yes, it's not up there in importance. If you can be right, and this is where I want to sort of go against what you're saying. We have this assumption that a doctor or people with higher education means you would be a better choice for a partner, and that's not really, I don't think that really holds water. It's a character thing. Right. If you want to look at it and say, in terms of discipline, you were able to stick with something long enough, that indicates that you're disciplined. in something that you valued. If we have a culture that doesn't really value men for men, you just value men for what they produce, then it's hard for you to say, I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to stick with a man. No, you sticking with your education, the same doesn't necessarily translate to you going to stick with a man. No, I get what she's saying here. I get what she's highlighting, that you want someone that is capable. And I think that's what we should look at. I don't really care what you do for work, especially if the onus on production and provision is on me, is on men. And what you do isn't really important, especially when you see more and more women say, I want a softer life. Well, you have student loan debts, you have this career that you're willing to walk away from to be a stay at home mom. Cool, commendable. We're not here to shame you for what you want. But now, how does what you've done and studied benefit me? How does that indicative of you being a better partner? It really isn't, right? Once we get back to examining someone's character, right, that's when we're probably a better predictor of what type of spouse or what type of person they're going to be for you, right? And of course, this is genderless. But when she's answering the question, why athletes, professional athletes, especially just keep it black, professional athletes tend to choose wrong, again, because they're young men, right? Young men, and once you praise, right, once you praise young men or young people with talent, and in the way our culture does it, in a sense that we value what you can do, you how far, how fast you can run with a ball, or what you can, how you can, score. We value that to the point where we are happily to hinder you. We're happy to hinder any real other type of progress that you can possibly make, any type of value you can bring to this planet, because you can hit the A gap. We look at that and say that's the most important thing that you can do, because one, for the love of money. Okay. And so the love of money, it's not so much, hey, I can't wait to praise you and pay you. No, it's you're gonna make this organization so much money. And to that effect, we're willing to spit you out and chew you up and spit you out and become a cog machine. Don't really care about your health. Don't really care about what type of state I leave you in. And we see countless examples of that. So to land the plane on this example, this on this point, when you do that, when the apparatus does that, it leaves men with less reasoning capabilities than their age may indicate. You think, and we're praising you day in, day out, especially when you make it to the highest echelon. You're on TV. People have memorized your stats. People have memorized your college stats. People have memorized your life. They follow you. They hang on every word that you say. Well, where's the adversity in that sort of personality side of things? You've never been challenged to think about things outside of your sport, outside of your craft, terribly critically. Same thing. Now, when men, when boys are turning to men, one of the things that is indicative of that is obstacles. When it comes to women, plenty of boys find obstacles with women in trying to navigate, understand, and properly vet. But when you, an athlete, again, praise for that, and women are sort of throwing themselves at you, and you're getting all this sort of access, again, not because of anything else intrinsically you, it's besides your talent. When you praise for that, you looked at for that, and of course, how much money that contract says. Yeah, you never have the opportunity to learn how to choose better. Furthermore, when you're around people that are trying to give you advice, you're comparing your level of success to their lack of it. So if the bus driver is trying to give you your advice as a man and saying, hey, these things are not good for you, these women are not good for you, you're going to look at him and say, you're a bus driver. Why would we even have the same worldview? What happened to you is never going to happen to me. And then it does, right? And then it does. And everyone's looking shocked. Though, okay, it happens so often. We're not even phased or shocked by it. It's because we take these boys and we chew them up and we say, here, produce for us, entertain us, we'll pay you, we'll elevate you, we'll celebrate you, but we won't teach you fundamentally how to be a man. We just look at you and say, you have the body of a man. You should be moving like a man. No, he's just going to take his time. He's going to learn the same things that us regular, degular humans learn, earlier in life. You look at it and you see the and the ESPN had the 30 for 30, basically was saying what happens after money. And it's such a ubiquitous thing that happens in sports, that after the talent is used up, the body is used up and broken, the mind is shattered by, CTE. What happens to these people? They don't really care enough, right? So when we look at, say, well, how come they make these poor decisions? It's not because they're saying, I don't care what she does. Right? It's not because I don't care what she does. I never developed the critical thinking skills in that sort of regard to women, because women were always it was always there. You don't value something that you've never had to work for. It's not saying that this is 100% of the thing, but I think it's something that we need to pay more attention to, rather than saying, hey, you just don't vet women and care what they do. Now, for us mere mortals, yes, we should be looking and saying, what is your character? What you do still isn't the most important, right? But if you are, with a doctor or with someone in a high paying career, men often say, I don't really care what you do, is because the propensity to give that up to raise a child, to be a stay at home wife. The thought process behind that, or men shy away from some of these women that are in these career fields, because in order to navigate that, in order to be a success in places like work, in your career, you have to take on masculine traits, the disagreeableness, right? When you feel slighted, or when you're up for a promotion, you don't get it, you have to be able to argue on your behalf. You have to exist in sometimes male dominated spaces and take on those characteristics that men are praised for. Is this necessarily the worst thing in the world? No, but we also don't teach people how to take who they are at work, divorce themselves from that identity daily when they go back home. Take off the cap of being a doctor, lawyer, CEO, and put on the cap of being a husband, a father. We don't teach people how to do that. We just take that identity, and that becomes transitory into our entire lives, who we are. Problematic. I think so. I think it's one of those things that if we don't pay attention to, we're just going to have more rhetoric going that goes back and forth saying, "Yeah, I just don't care what she does." You absolutely do. You absolutely should. And not in the sense of just because she's stuck with something, but in the sense of, this is going to be the mother of your children. Why would you not want someone that's just as or more educated than you? That was always my easiest response to something like that. But yours might be different. And if you have that, let me know down in the comments below. If you see videos on your screen right now, take a look at those. Let me know what your thoughts are. And of course, if you listen to sound my voice right now and I made some sort of sense and you're not subscribed, that doesn't make any sense. I'll see you in the next one.